Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Tuesday night, not at Yoga Samadhi. Um, here we are, still at the Hermitage, and doing our live stream from here. So it's what it is, and very happy that so many people have joined and plugging in to the meditation and the teaching. So we'll have a period of sitting meditation for about half an hour, and then I'll give a reflection for about another half hour, and then open it up for some questions. So beginning this evening, as we sit, just getting comfortable in this present moment, in this body, in this mind, and that's that's hard enough to do already. Just getting comfortable, but to consciously direct attention to this sense of settling, ease, releasing, kind of tightness, tension, and the various ways that we feel constricted. And I think it's helpful to draw attention to a sense of a sense of space, a sense of spaciousness. We can get so tight in our contracted in our own minds, in our own bodies, just focusing on ourselves, focusing on our whatever random thought comes through the mind, and it feels so important, and it's easy to contract around that. But then to bring some space into that feeling, into the perception, into how we're holding it in our body, and just opening space around that feeling, that thought, that perception, that experience, and realizing that space is always there. Um, in fact, that's actually the more prevalent part of our experience. It's just that we don't attend to it, that we don't recognize it. So that to consciously pay attention to this sense of space, just breathing in and just feeling that sensation of the breath coming in, but it's also surrounded by space. And breathing out, and it's surrounded by space. So the feeling of our, say, a particular mood. It could be worry and anxiety about something. And yes, we recognize it. Yes, it's there. But also recognize that there is space around that. There is a spaciousness that it exists within. That so often gets overlooked and not attended to. And so then we miss the opportunity to experience this spaciousness, a well-being, and that's it's a gift that we can give to ourselves as we sit, just making ourselves comfortable more or less, recognizing what comes in and out of the mind, more or less, but around it, surrounding it, kind of existing, parallel to all that is this feeling of space and spaciousness, not spaciness, spaciousness. We're aware, we're present, but not getting entangled in the contracted, tight, fearful, anxious, upset, um, obsessed, all the things that we do. But recontextualizing it, and that you recognize, okay, we've got this option, we've got this opportunity, we have this choice, which is actually more nourishing, which is more pleasing to the heart, which is more useful, because it is extremely useful to have a perspective on our experience. We stay with the knowing, we kind of delight in that awareness and knowing, but we're not contracting around it. There's that spaciousness that it abides within. So that just to be able to present a slightly different perspective to our minds, to our hearts, and then settle in to the rhythm of the breath as it comes in, as it goes out. Settle into the posture so that one is comfortable within the body. Settle into the mind so that it's not winding itself up and getting wound around things that are not very helpful. So we can just take this time to sit quietly and just experiment with that, play with that, see what comes. we can take the opportunity to, we've been sitting for a little bit, if you need to stretch your legs just a little bit, stand up, move around a little bit, that's fine. We'll just for about a minute have a little bit of a break, and then I'll begin giving a reflection. Okay, so it's reflecting a bit on solitude. Of course, it's a quality that the Buddha encouraged, praised, and is spoken of, a fair bit in the Buddha's discourses and teachings. And there's say a tendency to to idealize what solitude should be, and feel that we should be finding seclusion and stepping back from engagement in various ways. But it's it's also, of course, the Buddha does encourage solitude and seclusion. He also encourages the having good companionship, having community, having dealing skillfully with responsibilities and duties. So it's not a like a black and white virtue that he's speaking about. It is a if we are, of course, suffering and discontent, dissatisfaction is always your bottom line. So that if we are obsessing with socializing, engagement, activity all the time, that tends to be unbalanced and agitating, stirred up. But we can also get obsessed with solitude, seclusion, quiet. Everything needs to be perfectly quiet. Everything has to be not offending me in any way, and that that can be tiring and frustrating, source of dukkha as well. So that there's these realities of our life and our existence that we do need to deal with. And of course, we do need to learn how to step back from things and not get entangled, and to have a certain seclusion. Um, but yeah, it's not like an absolute seclusion, um, or having perfectly quiet conditions to be able to meditate and cultivate our Dhamma practice in. Of course, the Buddha did praise um, the places of, say, natural seclusion, a natural environment. But it's, the Buddha also, did go to various places. Say the monastery where he spent the most time was on the edge of Savatthi, which was a large royal capital, and capital city. So there was a certain amount of um, activity going on, and as well as engagement. It's a lot of it. It's always comes back to this sense of a balance, and what's appropriate at particular times, and then how do we hold it? Because even as say here at the Hermitage, I mean, it's an idyllic little spot in the forest, and we've got 3 people, and we've got 3 dwelling places. And are we always in perfect solitude? Not really. It's just the way it is. I say, like, today there was visitors showed up, and we're here till after the meal, and then a whole bunch of people showed up, and they were here the whole afternoon, and it's just no control. It's what it is. Or like yesterday, we had one of our lay supporters very generously brought a log splitter, and she sort of trained us and showed us how to use it. And we thought, well, maybe we should, now it's fresh in our minds, we should do a bit of log splitting so that it's um, we don't just listen to the instructions and then forget about them and try it later in the week. We don't know what the heck we're doing. So then we started um, with a bit of log splitting, getting, of course, getting firewood ready for the winter. And anyway, we split logs the whole afternoon until the whole pile was done. And it was not solitude. It was not even quiet. You got an engine running all the time with this log splitter going. It was actually kind of fun. I enjoyed it, and it was very satisfying to get it all done. And so sometimes doing things is actually satisfying. Or like just before the live stream, it was very satisfying. Just throwing out these flowers that I thought were old, and then throwing out a bunch of things that have been we haven't it's been sitting there for a long time. None of us know what the heck it's about. It's, so again, it's kind of satisfying to do things. It's satisfying not to do things. Go back to kuti and to to not be engaged. So, but it's it's not sort of like one or the other. It's sort of how do we create a balance in our life? And different times the balance is going to be different. But this sense of say valuing solitude. It's like the one of the reflections that the Buddha gave for the monastic. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. Do I delight in solitude or not? And it's not, again, pushing anything away, but it's also having this sense of delighting in solitude, delighting in seclusion, delighting in stopping, rather than this constant reacting, having to have an opinion, having to have a reaction, having to have a kind of a take on this, take on that. I've got actually, we don't have to. We don't have to. So much of the world is and the world around us, right in our immediate world, and the world surrounding us is it's not really about us. Of course, we make it about us. Oh, and we want to get engaged. We feel compelled to think about it, or to either get upset or attracted by it, and it goes on and on. So that sense of recognizing the world as the world, and not. It's the there's a very well, he's passed away now. He's a very senior disciple of Ajahn Mun. His name was Luang Por Pasanno, and he, after living and training and being a Tudong monk for a long time, then and living with Ajahn Mun, then he set up his monastery, a little forest monastery in his hometown, which was a small provincial town, say when he was young or youngish, and it grew into a provincial capital, Surin, and it had, and then they as the town grew, then it grew out in the direction of his monastery, and the municipal offices and civil service offices were set up. Kind of the municipal grounds were there, and so then that was where they would have, whenever there was a festival or some kind of public event, that is where it would take place. So it ended up being right next to the monastery. And and oftentimes the monks, and he lived there for over 50 years. Um, and he just by his own temperament, he was a just wonderfully. One of the words that just pops into my mind is like beatific, just delightful, pleasant being, and very, very peaceful. But he lived in this place that could be pretty chaotic, and then he said, so often monks, novices would come to him and want to leave or be upset because of all the noise and sort of the light and I said, well, his response would be, why do you take issue with those things? It's like light is just light, sound is just sound. It's just doing what say visual objects do. It's just doing what sounds have a nature to do. Why do you take interest? Why do you take exception? And that as to say, you have the option, or you have the duty as a practitioner to direct attention to the heart that is mindful, is aware, is present, is free of greed, hatred, free of attachment and clinging. We have that option, and it's not necessarily because of they say sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touch, the contact of the senses. That's going to happen anyway. I remember one time Ajahn Chah saying that he was getting upset with he was meditating in the forest, but still getting upset with the sounds, because sometimes you could hear the sounds of the village, or other sounds that come just even in nature, and he was getting upset with that, and then he went and found some beeswax, and he made it up into a little ear thing, stuffed his ears full of beeswax so he wouldn't have to hear the sounds. And then he said, so then I'd be free of having to listen to those sounds. And he said, then I sat in meditation, and all there was is this sound, because there's it's just sound is happening, and it if it's not one thing, it's another. I did the same thing one time with I was in retreat, and being late at night, I'd be meditating very kind of peacefully, and then there's this one particular kind of bird that had this really piercing call. It was like, and it was like, "Bok." It was like a bok, bok, bok. I was like having a nail driven into my forehead. That's what it felt like. But that's also, it's the bird doing what the bird does. And it's just, that's part of the nature. And the problem wasn't the bird, and the problem wasn't the sound. The problem was my own aversion, and that we have to recognize what we're doing, and recognize in the sense of what is seclusion, because we can try to manipulate and control all of the things around us, so that we don't have we don't see things that we don't like. We don't hear things that we don't like. We don't smell and taste or touch things that we don't like. We get everything, but we still have to live with our minds, and there's a lot there not to like. It's just being recognized. Oh, this is what yeah the senses do. And yes, you don't go seeking things that are really mm, overtly irritating or detracting or distracting, but to a certain degree that is the nature of sense contact. And it's the same thing. The nature of the mind is to think. Nature of the mind is to have good and bad moods. And how much do we invest in them? How much do we identify with them as this is me, this is mine, this is who I think I am? And that therein lies the problem. So that recognizing these different aspects of seclusion are supports, and they're kind of like a mirror to be able to recognize more clearly what what our minds are doing, and what are our what is the experience, and how do I work with this so that I'm able to free the heart from suffering, or not to create the suffering in the first place. Because that's also like one of the aspects of the um, um, the Four Noble Truths. The there is dukkha, there is the cause of dukkha, there is a cessation of dukkha, path leading to cessation of dukkha. But that word cessation is I mean, it's translated as cessation, and it's not a bad translation, but it's also not a complete translation, in the sense that it also has that say like non-arising of dukkha is really an important perspective. So that, because it's not that we have to go and stamp out all the little dukkhas around, but it's sort of like seeing things in a perspective so that that arising of dukkha just doesn't take place. The arising of our reactivity, or the investing in the reactivity and moods of the mind. So that reflecting on it in terms of seclusion, like when the Buddha spoke of these different forms of seclusion, of course, the first is a physical seclusion, and that sense of being in a natural environment, and the especially in the I think certainly in the West, and we in America in particular, we have access to really natural environments, and that there can be a a quiet and settled aspect to that nature and natural setting that is, it's extremely soothing. It's very, very settling, and to um, give ourselves that opportunity to experience that. Um, remember quite a few years ago, the gosh, I'm spacing out now. There's a documentary. He just does a lot of documentaries for PBS. He did on Civil War, and he did on the Vietnam War, and he did on the Depression. Anyway, he did um, um, a documentary on the United States national parks, and it was sort of like America's best idea. Ken Burns, thank you. That's yeah, Ken Burns did this um, series on the national parks, but it was titled or subtitled, America's Best Idea, and I think that's it is really. And there is access to the the natural world around us. That is, um, yeah, it is a physical solitude, and of course we're in White Salmon. You look across from White Salmon, and Mount Hood is there, and it's a extremely beautiful space environment. Mm. So and sometimes we really do need to give ourselves that physical solitude, that physical seclusion. But we also need to learn how to develop this physical seclusion is called Kaya Viveka, the solitude of the body. There's Chitta Viveka, which is the solitude of the heart. And that is the aspect of, say, of our meditation, of our samadhi, of our settling of the mind in a space of tranquility, and knowing how to find that tranquility within the heart, and that is it's a really important aspect of solitude, seclusion. That wherever we go, we have our breath, we have our mindfulness, we have our opportunity to settle into a place of ease and spaciousness, and that is always there. It's like the say the mind, not going out and it's like the well-known story of Ajahn Chah, teaching in London, and the where the first monastery that was there, that was given to them as a foothold for establishing the Sangha in England was along a busy road across from a pub, and especially in the summertime when you'd open the windows to get some air moving, then there was sound that was coming in, and that people found that a bit difficult. And one time after meditation, I asked, what do you do when sound comes to bother you in the meditation? And Ajahn Chah's response was, well, the sound isn't coming to bother you. You're going out and bothering the sound. And that's, what we do. We go out and bother sound, sights, smells, taste, touch, moods of the mind itself. We go out and bother them by taking exception to the with our liking and our disliking, and that's agitating, it's unsettling, it's disturbing, not because of the actual sound itself, but because of our reactivity. And so within that, there is this opportunity for a solitude of the heart, this citta viveka that is within the mindfulness and the settling of the mind, the tranquility of samadhi. The Buddha also pointed to another form of solitude, of seclusion. In Pali, it's called upadi viveka, and what it is they say the solitude or the seclusion from the basis of becoming, of being. And again, this is not an annihilation, and this is a realization of not self, but it's not an annihilation. But it's a recognition that this becoming energy, that mind that is trying to establish a me that has this stance, this identity, this personality, this view, this opinion, this all this, those are the grounds of becoming, the bases of being, that keep us off balance, that keep us frustrated, not peaceful. We're as an underlying basis of our humanness is that we, and certainly those who are drawn to, say, the Buddha's teachings, we value peace, we value wisdom, we value a quality of like, inner and outer harmony. But that harmony, that peace is not disturbed so much by the world around us, but by our having to prop up a sense of me. And of course that me can be sometimes prop up a me that's somehow better or exalted or it's a me that is somehow deprived and is beset upon by whatever, but it's a me that we take refuge in, and it's a me that is it's a basis of becoming a being. So it's just, and it's not trying to annihilate that or trying to destroy it, but seeing, oh, isn't that interesting how that works? There's that movement there. There's that becoming energy. There's that need to be something. And is it necessary? Is it even real? Does it have a basis in anything other than my deluded obsessions? And so that again, the sense of getting space around it, some clarity, some understanding, and the opportunity to relinquish, to let go. This is where our real sense of peace is. It's like one of the phrases that Ajahn Chai used in his teaching, talking about unshakable peace. It's a peace that we can carry around with us whatever situation, whatever people we're engaged in, whatever world we're inhabiting, whatever duties we have. So it's a yeah, and yes, it is an aspiration, but I think it's a really worthy one to encourage ourselves with. And we think of, like I began the the meditation this evening, the sense of spaciousness. And that space and spaciousness is a one can see that on all those different levels, just that spaciousness of being in a physical environment that is pleasing, spaciousness that's in a emotional environment that is settling and soothing. But then the spaciousness that comes without having to carry that burden of of I making and mind making. And it's something that we are making. It's not it doesn't have an intrinsic foundation. And just seeing clearly and recognizing, oh, that yeah, peace and yeah, kind of freedom are they are our the opportunity, or they're all our birthright, really. We have this opportunity to encourage ourselves and to support ourselves and support each other in doing that. So I'll offer that for reflection this evening. Give the opportunity for people to ask questions if they wish. Okay, there's a how do we skillfully let go of grief due to the loss of our ability to function caused by aging and chronic illness? Well, I think one of the things is recognizing that we don't the sense of, we don't really have control, and even like aging is like, even being born is the fetus aging, and then all the different elements of growing up are all the process of aging. And yeah, certainly chronic illness is just having this body and mind. It's never really at ease. And I realize that there are the realities of as we age, and there are a variety of illnesses that we can contract, and they can be um, debilitating in different ways, um, and but to be able to put that perspective, it's like I remember Ajahn Chah. Um, he one of the ways he expressed it was that he said, like, this is sort of like in English it come across like this particular brand of, there's no warranty on this particular brand, referring to the human body, and it's not that reliable. So you can't get a warranty on it, and it has various ways of displaying its limitations, and certainly it was the aging process does that. But then there's a whole variety of illnesses that are can be part and parcel of that, and we all have different um, different propensities to that for good health or ill health. I think of say somebody like Ajahn Chah. He he did not live long, and his later years were a lot of illness and it was not comfortable for him, but he was also he was able to view it from a perspective of Dhamma and have that kind of a brightness about him, and so that despite the limitations, there was always a sense of a brightness. Okay, next question. Thanks so much for these events. They've been so helpful for me during a period of forced solitude. Yes, right. There's been this solitude which we seek, and there's the solitude that we've all got.
COVID viveka.
COVID. Yeah, it's the COVID viveka. COVID viveka. My question is about the Bhadegaratta Sutta. How is it about solitude? Well, I think there's this very beautiful. Well, one is just not projecting about the future, not going about the past. How and this each presently arisen moment is seen just as it is. I can't remember the exact phrasing.
Mindfulness.
Yeah. So it comes back to mindfulness, but it's this mindfulness of each presently arisen moment. That is the solitude. and that's the great kind of blessing that comes. So it's an important aspect. And it's a really succinct sutta, and it's interesting that it comes up in like three different Bhadegaratta suttas that are in the Majjhima Nikaya, and so it's coming out of but each one has that emphasis, and it's be helpful to go back and take a look at that phrasing, and take a look at a few different translations, because that sense of each presently arisen moment is seen as it is. Okay. And thinking about worst possible scenario in order to prepare us for that situation also creates a lot of fear and anxiety. We think we are prepared, but when that situation is about to occur or actually occurs, we are shaken. How do we prepare ourselves while thinking about worst possible scenario without getting perturbed in the present and future? Well, I don't know. I don't think you need to rehearse worst possible scenarios, because the nature of the mind is, and we're always desire based, and it's always sort of going to the future, the next thing, so that as bad as you can think this is going to be, you can always think of something worse. And there's really no end to it. So that you don't go around kind of kind of gloss everything. Oh, everything's wonderful, but it's more one recognizing that yeah, sure, things can go pear-shaped in existence really easily. Not taking things for granted, not taking things lightly, but I don't think it's that useful to kind of rehearse or think about all the things that possibly could go wrong, because the possibilities are quite endless, really. And
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, because sometimes you do hear that advice. Well, you're worrying, somebody's worrying about something, or there's a worry going on and about something that could happen. And the advice is, well, what's the worst possible scenario that could happen? But it's not so much trying to conjure up something to make it even worse, but it's like naming the worry that's already going on. It's just not being allowed in.
It's not being allowed in.
Yeah. And so it's sort of like, okay, well, just, it's there. So just look at it and, know it. Not as you say, to kind of keep on going and trying to think of something even worse than that.
Right.
Naming the demon that's already there.
Yeah, naming the demon is like, I mean, I can certainly remember as a young monk sort of thing, because you're practicing or you're living in situations that unfamiliar, you don't know, living in a culture you don't really know, not familiar with, and putting oneself in situations that not quite sure what's going to happen. And so, well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I'll just die. Yeah, well,
there you go.
You go. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and am I ready for death? And so, and how do I want to be ready for death? So that I think you can turn it in ways that can be quite skillful. But to be cautious as to how much one invests in the scenarios,
right,
because they are really endless. Or the sense of I remember one time being sick at hospital, Ubon Hospital, and which Ubon's a provincial hospital in a poor area, and then but trying to I can't remember what I had that time.
One of many different occasions.
One of many different occasions being in the Ubon Hospital, but then wanting to read more, and I heard that they had a library, and then went to the library, and it was quite a large room, and it was just stacks and stacks of books, medical books and medical journals, and I had that thought, oh, all of these books and journals, and this is just a dinky little provincial hospital. All of these books are all about all the things you can go wrong with the body. I did find the book I was looking for, and researched the particular illness that I was having to deal with at the time. But it was striking. So, all right, all of these books are about what can go wrong with the body. So, definitely extensive. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn Liam said, knowing the value of adversity, nothing in life is perceived as bothersome or difficult. How do I discover the value of adversity? Well, I think the value of adversity is what do we learn from it, and that that ability to when one is willing to learn from adversity, difficulty, then obstacles that we have, then we actually learn skills, we learn perspectives, we learn how to live in a way where nothing is perceived as bothersome or difficult. And of course, Ajahn Liam is though that is not just kind of platitudes that he's mouthing. That's how he lives. And I think I mentioned it a while ago where he was. Where he was. I don't know if I brought it up in one of the live streams or not, but he was dealing with a heart problem and very limited heart function. And he had, of course, he hadn't
20-30%.
It's 23%,
or 20 or 30%.
20 or 30% of heart function. That was, and of course, he hadn't said anything, but the doctors were aghast. And he was, he was tired, but he wasn't. But and so then doctors sort of saying he really needed to have stents put in and do the procedure of getting his, and this is 10, 15 years ago. And he was kind of leaning to not do anything. And of course, everybody around him was sort of either, okay, yeah, well, it's your choice, or was, please, if you stay and have this, you have, and he did have it. And of course, he's still healthy up till today. But everybody's sort of weighing in on different sides, and Ajahn Liam sitting in the midst of the various people with their opinions and their moods, and he said, just peaceful. He said, living, dying, it's the same thing. So yeah, it's not perceived as bothersome or difficult.
I think I also remember that somewhere along the line, people were asking him, or somebody asked him, it's like, well, if you knew that you were feeling this way, why didn't you do anything sooner? And his response was something like, well, I thought it was just the body doing what bodies do. This is what happens to bodies.
Yeah, that's what happens to the bodies. But you realize, okay, well, the medical science is at a point where you can do something. So anyway, he did, and it's been a blessing for the world for him to have him around. But that sense of adversity, also, like, it was one of the things that Ajahn Chah said after, because he only made 2 visits to the West, and one of the things that he actually expressed concern about, because he was very, enthusiastic about having the Sangha come to the West. He was very supportive and keen, and he saw the interest in the faith that people had. But he said one of the things that he had a hesitation about was he saw the level of material comfort and well-being that is in the West, and that was, he said, I'm afraid that the Sangha in particular, but that translates to practitioners, any practitioners, that they're not going to experience any shortages or any difficulties, any adversity. They won't have to do without. And living in a way where you don't have to do without things, he said, I don't think the practice will really develop.
No opportunity to develop certain resilience.
No opportunity to develop that resilience or to reflect on, well, how does that adversity manifest? What's my go-to mood when I experience difficulty or adversity or not being able to get what I want? It really is something to be concerned about, because we, certainly this culture is, and these modern times are, talk about instant gratification. It's or choice of whatever you consume. It's it really does create a sense of is there a resilience there? Is there a sense of a reflective investigation going on with our experience? And that's really, it's needed for our growing that. And then you start seeing that's its value. The value of adversity is, what does it have to teach us about our own minds, our own reactions? Okay, there's one last question here. Just for clarity, naming the demon, as Ajahn Karunadhammo said, that is already there, further perpetuates worry. How to deal with that? Well, I think one is to reflect on that sense of what's the basis of the worry? Why is it so worrisome? It's like, especially with like that example of Luang Por Pasanno, here he is with a, I think by most standards, a debilitating illness, and there's not worry. So that, sometimes, naming the demon helps to sort of see, well, what am I afraid of? Where's my fear? Where is my anxiety? And naming it over and over and over again, obsessing with it, is another aspect that can complicate it. But it's also, finding, learning how to experiment with the practice with our minds, so that we can start to gain like a perspective on what is it, where is the dukkha in this? How is it created, and how can it be realized so that there is a non-arising, or it's not. This is not taking over the mind. It's just something that, well, there it is. It arises. It ceases. It's there. It's not. It's very ordinary. Because things that even fear of fear of death, fear of difficulty, fear of embarrassment and awkwardness socially. I mean, there's so many fears. But to actually sort of say, oh yeah, well, that's what it is. And say, okay, and that can be seen, that can be it can be held, it can be softened around. It doesn't have to be a source of reaction and a sense of apprehension. Oh dear, there it is again. No, it's just this. It's sort of like, oh yeah, there it is again.
It's sort of like naming the demon has to be accompanied with a sense of clarity of what that demon really is.
Yeah.
And I think if it is increasing anxiety and fear when you name the demon, it's because you're really not seeing it very clearly and taking some sort of sense of ownership or,
or perspective.
Kind of projecting something onto it that is actually more than it really is. So you have to see it with clarity. So it's like the Buddha's, the way whenever he was being challenged by some, mental state or whatever, and then he recognized it and he saw it for what it was, he would say, I know you, Mara.
I know you, Mara. Yeah.
And then Mara has no control.
Mara has no control. Mara, he's got to slink off. Okay, well, that is the evening, Tuesday night gathering. So good to see you all, and wish you all well. Take care.